they are living in the end times, endorsing a portion or drugs, not following the five precepts. There is an ongoing spiritual decline. So absurd from a Theravada perspective.
Like the Buddhist art. No
Yeah,
way.
the fourth monks are the original traditions, the wisdom of the Buddha. Preventing me from becoming a monk, morals are a very important component of the Buddhist practice.
Welcome, Angelo. I'm Sam. It's the Illegitimate Scholar Podcast. So I'm happy to have you. And you are from Italy,
Yeah,
from Firenze. How do you
yeah, well,
pronounce
it's Florence, but actually I
that?
live in Pisa.
You live in
The
Pisa.
Yeah, I call myself Asoka da Firenze because my temple is located in Florence.
Okay, cool. And is that so? That naming technique is that a Buddhist naming technique?
Yeah, it's the name of the first Buddhist emperor.
Ooh, right. Ahsoka is
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
But De Firenze, is that how
yeah.
Buddhist people
It's
traditionally
like
spell their
from
name?
Florence.
Yeah.
Do you know about Assassin's Creed? Ezio Auditore who like calls himself the Da Firenze. It
Right.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
a pun on that name.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. All right. So it's reference to that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, I yeah, I've also heard of it in like I've heard it in like Muslim Muslim names as well. Like some this is completely unrelated to you, obviously, but like a British jihadi changing their name to like Mohammed Day, like or Allah. It's a different thing, and it.
Oh no,
Yeah.
you in Britain you do not take religious names unless you become a monk. Then you take a name, but as a layman, you can keep your name.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Sweet. Um, yeah, I like my name. All right, cool. So you're in Florence. I mean, Americans are going to be familiar with both Florence and Pisa. They're aware of those places. So northern Italy, then that's where you're from.
Yeah. I was born and raised here.
Okay. Okay. Mm. All right. And so what draws you to Buddhism then? Because obviously, well, wait a minute. Most of the people around you, did you grow up Catholic?
Yeah, of course. But
Okay.
I was not practicing Catholic like many people in Italy. We are Catholic only by those of our tradition. Many of us are only nominally Christian. We go to mass, we say our prayers, we take the hostia, and after the Holy Communion, it ends there. So many people just stop after the Holy Communion.
Right. Yeah, it's a
And
similar thing for American Catholics. I'm Irish Catholic. It makes sense.
yeah, and what drew me to Buddhism? There are many reasons why I decided to join Buddhism in the first place. But first thing that I can tell you is that it's been one hell of a ride because uh, it's been the fruit of many years of studying different genres of books, ranging from biography to history, geography, uh, ancient plays, also ancient novels, mythology, and all the way to theology and philosophy. So, mm, and I was quite lucky to have so much time on my hand to study all these subjects. And basically, I start my journey with the Greeks, as they say, start with the Greeks, and that's because I felt drawn to my Greek Christian ancestors. way more than my recent ancestors, because people usually do not think about it, but our like our collective legacy is so prevalent in our daily life that we do not notice until we actually start studying studying our ancient roots. And so I start I started reading the basic text. You know, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, yeah. You started reading the basic texts.
Yeah, I started reading the basic texts like the Iliad and the Odyssey, and
The
then
Odyssey. Yeah.
yeah, the Odyssey, and then I went ahead and studied the Aeneid and the sequels of the Greek epic poems, which were preserved by Roman authors. And then I moved to history. I've been studying many ancient historians like Livy, Herodotus, and so on. And after going through all these ancient authors, I turned to the the people with which the ancient Romans and Greeks were uh, were communicating with, like the the ancient Germanics, the ancient Celts, and the other Indo-European peoples. And so, as time went by, I started feeling drawn to this collective heritage of the Indo-European peoples, and so after a long period of study, after cracking my head on many books, I decided to run rather a rather I say big Discord server. I don't know if it's for 400 members is big enough, but I think we had like 400 members, and this Discord server basically I invited all kinds of people from various religions, mostly people who were practicing the ancient pagan religions. But this server also had many Hindus and Buddhists, both Asian and European Buddhists. And at one point, I got introduced to my Japanese to a Japanese Nichiren temple by a friend from Brazil, and so I wanted to find a spiritual community, because before joining Buddhism, I practiced a little some basic rituals of the ancient pagan Greek and Roman religions. But of course, these religions do not have an uninterrupted tradition, so it's very hard to find people who are still practicing today. I mean, there is one or two communities in Rome, but they highly also shared the many bad rumors about them, like they were founded by people from the Freemasonry, and where there were many occultists. No, so they're not very traditional as they want to make you believe.
Right. And like you said, there's not a continuous tradition with those
Yeah,
cults
yeah,
in
so
Rome. Those are neo-pagan, right?
yeah, so they have to. draw from something else to, I mean, to at least pretend that the tradition is alive. And so, while I was running this Discord server, I got introduced by this friend to Nichiren Temple in Florence. And
What's the Neutron Temple?
Nichiren, Japanese.
Nichiren.
Nichiren.
How do you spell that?
N
I
yeah, C H I R R E N. Okay.
Oh, this is
Yeah,
okay. I've never heard of this before. Nichiren.
yeah,
Okay, so he was a Japanese Buddhist priest. Yeah, I just I was hearing the word you were saying. I just did not. I've never heard this word before. Okay, so sorry. Continue.
yeah. So I started attending these the services in this Nichiren temple, and I became very curious to find out about their practices, their doctrines, and their people. But as I start practicing and I kept going every week, because when I attend services, I usually do it every week, and basically mm, I found out that this Nichiren Buddhism was not really something that was up my alley. Because I don't know if it's written there, but the Nichiren Buddhists are quite different from the other branches of Buddhism, because they do not follow any precepts. They do not follow the standard five precepts of the other denominations, and they say that they do not follow any of these precepts because they believe they are living in the end times. So basically, in the end times, following these five precepts, which I don't know if you already know them. Uh, yeah, not killing, not stealing, not lying, not taking intoxicants, and not cheating on people. So for the Nichiren Buddhist, following these five precepts became too hard in our modern times because there is an ongoing spiritual decline. And so they focus mostly on the veneration of the Lotus Sutra, which is basically their I will say it is their only Bible, because it is the according to them it is the final teaching of the Buddha, and the teaching which is takes is more important than all the other previous ones. And they venerate the sacred scripture. Actually, they venerate the Buddha, but it's a bit complex to explain now. So basically, they believe that the Buddha is an entity which mm, has three types of bodies, and the first body is the cosmic Buddha body, which is kind of like uh, uh, pantheist deity, it means that it's kind of like an entity which envelops the whole universe. The true Buddha, according to them, is the universe itself. And then they have the body which is shown only to bodhisattvas, and then they have the final body, which is the historical Buddha. And the Nichiren Buddhists venerate through the Lotus Sutra, this cosmic body of the Buddha. And the only practice that they approve of, the only one that the, the only kind of practice they need, they have is chanting the Japanese mantra, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which roughly means uh, which means basically uh, um, something like glory to the mystical law of the Lotus Sutra. So, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah,
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 yeah, I can hear you. Glory to mystical love of
yeah.
the
Mystical
Lotus
law of
Sutra.
the Lotus Sutra. Yeah, because the mystical law is propagated through the Lotus Sutra, through the Holy Scripture. And so basically, the practice was very simple. And I mean, it could have been fine if they stopped here, but instead, besides not respecting, not following any precepts, the priests and the lay nun would often also criticize the author Buddhist denominations. They will say that the author denominations did not offer a full enlightenment, only a partial kind of enlightenment, because
Yeah,
the,
it's a theme in
yeah,
these.
yes. They were quite sectarian, and also the fact that the priest also drank alcohol because they did not follow any precepts.
Wow.
So yeah, it can be it kind of annoyed me, and also the people were actually very kind when they were inside the temple, but when they went outside, basically they stopped being Buddhist. They forgot about their doctrine. So for me, it sound the my Nichiren experience was like I don't know uh it was kind of like a Catholic church, but in a Buddhist vein, because the only practice was just chanting the mantra, and by chanting the mantra you can purify your karma, you can absolve your sins, you can yeah, and
Okay.
this will sound quite absurd according to the other Buddhist schools. And in fact,
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
when I told this thing to my Theravada monk the first time I visited the temple, he told me that it was nonsense. 'Cause, I mean, according to every other Buddhist, it is. But
Yeah,
yeah,
eh,
it
yeah.
was the Nichiren Buddhism. So it was kind of a cultish kind of Buddhism. It was a very sectarian denomination. And actually, it was not even the most sectarian tradition, because the other ones also would forbid the followers from celebrating non-Buddhist festivities. So they were even more restricted than the ones that I follow with. And so yeah, after 6 months of attending services in this temple, I
You made it
became
6 months. Okay.
yeah 6 months. But actually, there were some positive aspects, like for example, the priest. He was an Italian man who took vows, went to Japan, and became a Nichiren priest. And he used to be a therapist, and so he used to be also a man of science. And when after the religious services, he would also try to explain us the Dharma in a modern scientific lens, without filtering it too much like the these secular Buddhists. And he will also try to warn us about the secular Buddhist movement like Sugageka. So yeah, there were some positive aspects of this experience, but it was not the practice that I wish to follow in the end. And
Okay. So 6 months in Nichiren,
yeah,
which is part of well, it's its own specific thing, of course, but it's part of the Mahayana
yeah,
tradition
yeah,
as
it's
opposed to,
Mahayana. And
yeah.
then I
Um,
got
no, go ahead.
Mahayana
Yeah.
fatigue, and basically I grew tired of Mahayana, and I said I want to try Theravada, which is the most ancient Buddhist school, which is still surviving in nowadays. And so I went to the temple. I think it was the last May 2023. Yeah, I think it was in late spring. And I introduced myself to the head monk in Florence, and we talked about my previous experience. We kind of laugh about it because it was so absurd from a Theravada perspective that he, yeah, he did not tell me outright that it was a fake brand of Buddhism. He was not very happy to hear about it, about what they were doing in nature. And so the head monk told me to that before practicing, I should learn what it means to be a Buddhist. He suggested me to read some text addressed to Buddhist laymen in the Pali canon. And he told me that it was extremely important to understand what being a Buddhist implies, because mm, unlike the Mahayana Nichiren Buddhist school, Theravada is a very systematic kind of Buddhism. Uh, the practice might be done at any time of the day, because mm, practicing Theravada does not just mean meditating, sitting down and meditating, or chanting uh, formulae or sutras. It also means having correct moral conduct. And yeah, this is one of the key points of Theravada Buddhism. So following right conduct was the first steps towards the towards enlightenment. And uh, as time went by, I started attending more and more, and I started also reading the full scriptures. Uh, I mean the scriptures of the Pali canon, the Nikaya scriptures, and uh, oh, now mm, it's been around. I think it's been almost 1 year since I started going, and I learned many things that uh, uh, you will not expect to find in Buddhism, both from the text and from the experience. Because the practice, the Theravada Buddhist practice, also includes some kind of popularized aspect, which kind of resembles the ancient pagan traditions. Yeah, I can't hear you anymore. The audio went out.
Sorry, I was muting it so that we didn't get any
Yeah,
feedback. Yeah. So, I mean, in my perspective, it seems like Buddhism in the West, and I think a lot of people recognize
yeah,
that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
almost, it's
Buddhism.
practiced as like it's like treated as not a real religion in the sense that
Yeah.
you would treat Islam or Judaism or Christianity. It's like you can just kind of be. It's like a 1960s The Beatles version of Buddhism or Hinduism.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like a pop
yeah.
culture version of.
Yeah, but these people do not attend temples. They they say it because they say that they do not want to join any organized religion after they experience with Christianity. But if they actually went and attended the religious service at the temples, realize that it's actually a real religion with rituals, morals, prayers, beliefs, and everything. And yeah, yeah, there's this popular aspect of Buddhism which doesn't get mentioned in Western Buddhist books. And this aspect, as I say, it resembles pretty much the ancient pagan religions without the blood sacrifice, of course. We do not kill animals. We do not slaughter. We do not offer anything which breeds. Yeah. Uh,
Probably a good idea. I'm glad on that you're not
yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah,
sacrifice it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I started attending services every week at the temples, and I also started celebrating their religious festivities. Uh, so I could experience firsthand the Buddhist faith uh, by both practicing at home and practicing with the monks and the other native Buddhist lay people. And I have to say that right now I'm very satisfied about the practice, much more than I was at Nichiren Temple. Because people do not feel like that they don't feel like they have a double space. They feel quite humble and honest about their opinions. They do not suddenly stop being British when they leave the temple. They do not criticize the other Buddhist denominations. Well, actually, some laymen sometimes make some rude comments on Hinduism, but the monks never will never dare say anything like that. In fact,
We should say that Hindu or I forget which one was for Buddhism comes out of Hinduism rather than Hinduism out of Buddhism, right?
no, I'd say that it is like a parallel tradition.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It actually springs from the Sramana tradition, which developed alongside the Vedic tradition. And this Sramana tradition was an ancient movement, aesthetic movement, which rejected the laws of the Vedas. And so, while it is true that Buddhism took many aspects from Hinduism, and also people in Sri Lanka worship some Hindu deities. The the Buddhist religion can can be regarded as a religion which, uh, yeah, it rejects the teachings of the Vedas. The Vedas, yeah, and the actually, the reason that it gets conflate with Hinduism today is because Buddhism has been pretty much wiped out in India. So even the Hindus themselves, they do not have a very good understanding of Buddhism. So they limit themselves to believing that Buddha is an avatar of Vishnu, or just like an ancient Indian ascetic. But the more learned Hindus actually oppose Buddhism because mm, they believe in different doctrines. For instance, while the Hindus believe in an eternal soul, like in Christianity, in ancient, they believe that there is an eternal soul which moves from one body to another. The Buddhists do not believe that this eternal soul exists. They believe in non-self, which does not literally mean that there is not a consciousness or self, but rather that this self that we have is subjected to changes every moment. Every moment we experience a change in our consciousness. So every day we could say that we are kind of different people. We become different people over time. And yeah, but on the other hand, they both believe in the rebirth. But the Buddhists, because they believe in non-self, they they have replaced the eternal soul, which transmigrates from one body to another, with five aggregates, which include consciousness, perception, feeling, and so on. And yeah, so these are, in short, the main differences between the Hindu and Buddhist religion. And another key difference is that the Buddhists do not believe in an eternal God. They believe in many gods which are mortal, like the Hindus. We also believe in many gods, but unlike the Hindus, they do not have a supreme, eternal, immortal God which rules above everything. Yeah, this is another conflicting point with Hinduism. And some Hindus sometimes will claim that Buddhists are atheist heretics because they do not share their same view on this supreme deity. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
No.
And that idea of the supreme deity that comes from the Vedic tradition, right? In Hinduism, or am I
Mm,
making it up?
I'm not sure if it comes from the Vedic tradition, because I'm not I did not study in depth the evolution of the Hindu religion. I'm more focused on Buddhist traditions, but
Okay.
yeah, if I recall correctly, the chief deities that they worship now in Hinduism, like Vishnu and Shiva, they do not actually come from the Vedic tradition, but are derived from the Puranas, which are later texts. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. Theravada Buddhism. That's where we're at. We talked about the differences with Hinduism. Um, you had brought up earlier Indo-European stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
do you are is Theravada Buddhism? Do you see that as some sort of connection to a broader Indo-European history?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Okay. Talk about
besides
that.
having very organized ritualistic aspects, which resembles as I said, the ancient Indo-European traditions. the Theravada Buddhists also have historically interact with the ancient Greeks and the Romans. In the times after the death of Alexander, there were many individual rulers with each their own rings. And some of these rings, which were located in Asia, were influenced by Buddhism, and some rulers also ended up adopting Buddhism as their own religion. Like the most the greatest example of this phenomenon is the King Menander. If you know about him, he summoned a Buddhist monk called Nagasena, and he he basically asked him many questions about his faith and why he follows the teaching of the Buddha. And when Nagasena answered gave the ruler the answers that satisfied him, then the Menander decides to convert to Buddhism. So yeah, I'd say even though you will not say that I mean from if you did not study history and you know little about Buddhism, you will not expect that it's actually interact with the ancient Greeks and the Romans. And so yeah, besides the obvious connections in the or rituals, and we also have a historical connection, and of course we also have the linguistic connection, because both the Pali and the Sanskrit language are indo-european languages. And like in some sutras, in some formulae that you chant, yeah, you will also, even if you're just an English speaker, you sometimes you will notice some words that sound like English verbs. So yeah, there's a geographical, historical, and a linguistic connection that ties Buddhism to the West. And I feel like this triple connection is not very emphasized by Buddhist scholars. Maybe because they're trying to sell Buddhism as a self-help book.
Yeah.
They're not
That
trying
yeah, that
to
makes sense.
emphasize the religious aspects, just the kind of aspects which are useful to people in daily lives. Uh, yeah,
That makes sense. But yeah, I never really thought about this. But so this is like after Alexander the Great. So this is Greco-Bactrian. This guy
yeah,
converts to Buddhism because it's a Hellenistic Greek kingdom in, I mean, centered in what's now like Pakistan and Punjab in India today. But
yeah.
that's very interesting. Okay. I've never thought about it in this way as being any sort of connection to Indo-European history at all. All right.
From-
So,
Then, besides, there also, of course, the artistic connection, because the Greeks were the first ones to portray the Buddha according to their artistic canons. And in
okay.
fact, if you look up the first Buddha statues, you will notice that the his face is very similar to Apollo. Yeah, it's very fascinating to find out that even though the
Yeah.
Buddhism is perceived as a distant Eastern faith, it's actually much closer to us than we usually believe.
Huh. Okay. Pull this up. So you're saying that early statues of the Buddha are like Hellenistic? Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
God.
they were,
Greco-Buddhist art. No
yeah,
way.
they were made by Hellenistic artisans. So yeah, they reflect their art.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And this is from,
It's
let me see the
from
list
Gandhara.
numbers. Yeah. 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 Dude, that's amazing. That is something else. Um, how do I, oh, I had a different option before. Oh God. Literally. Okay. But yeah. So the original art or like the first Buddhist art is Greek. Wow. This one looks, thi- okay. So this is Gandhara. This is the Greco-Bactrian kingdom
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you're
and
talking
also
about.
recently they also uncovered, they also found some statues of the Buddhas in Egypt. If you look up
Wow.
the most recent discoveries, yeah, look it up.
Yeah, so and I should say for people that are just listening, I'm just pulling up some images of these early Buddhist statues. Um, okay, so Berenike Buddha
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Berenike, I don't know how to pronounce that in Egypt. This is interesting. Hmm, Egypt. This is an early find, 100 AD.
Yeah, and it was discovered very recently in 2019. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge discovery.
So, and of course, this would make sense that it's like I know about this not in the context of the conquest of Alexander, but in the conquest of Genghis Khan, is that like it allows for this vast area that wasn't before connected to then have safe travel within the empire. And then there's ideas and technology and goods moving within that empire. So then the idea here is that they brought Buddhism to Alexandrian Egypt from
Yeah,
Alexandrian like Punjab or today Pakistan or northern India.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is how did I not know about this? I need to be on top of my archaeological finds a little bit better. I did not realize this was here. But yeah, there's no the last 10 years Buddhist artifacts found in Egypt dating to the first century. That is insane, dude. Okay, very cool. Um, okay, so Buddhism as Indo-European history. Um, all right. So do you see this then as something just personal for you, or do you see Buddhism possibly as some sort of like eh, some sort of something that could be used by Western civilization during its decline? Is it that type of thing for you, or is it just personal?
No, I actually believe that Buddhism is like Christianity and universal religion. So yeah, its country of origin is India, or like Nepal, but it it's not an ethnic religion like Hinduism or like ancient paganism. You know, they well besides Hellenism, the like the ancient Germanic religion was I guess it was tied to the ancestral customs of the Germans, and they took pride in their blood. So they had a very strict connection between blood and tradition.
Yeah,
And
that's something that's pretty common throughout pagan religions in the Americas and as well. It's like
yeah,
Native American religions. It's very common to have these early religions as being related very directly to the land.
yeah, but the Buddhism is a global religion. It traveled Asia and also had contacts with with Europe, as I said. And I had to say that while it did kind of become the main religion of many Asian countries, which were formerly pagan countries, it did not displace the indigenous deities and the indigenous customs, but rather absorbed these customs. Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
that's good.
yeah,
And that's good because it's something that like we talk about this quite a bit on the show. We always end up talking.
yeah, yeah. I
It's like
see the your video on anthropology of religion, where you were talking about how the old gods became the saints of Christian.
right,
The
right, right. And I think it might have been that one. It might have been a different one where I talked specifically about in Cornwall in England. So I'm ethnically I'm Irish Catholic. Like I'm American. I'm like third generation American, but like I'm Celtic ethnically, and the Cornish, which is one of the seven Celtic kingdoms, Cornwall in England. I was reading about a specific event in the 1500s where there was Protestant persecution of the Catholic traditions, and there was explicitly the Cornish were revolting because their ancient traditions were contained within Catholicism, within the saints of what they were specifically practicing. Yeah, so I end up talking a lot of crap on specifically Protestantism on this show. Sorry guys, I know some of you are Protestants, but just from a practicality standpoint. But that's interesting. Okay, so Buddhism as a universal religion, they so how do they adopt local deities into Buddhism? What's the specific way that Theravada Buddhism does that? If you know, it's
well, actually, Theravada is does not
okay.
usually turn the like the Mahayana Buddhists. It does not turn the local deities into bodhisattvas. It does because the Theravada Buddhists do not have bodhisattvas besides the future Buddha Maitreya, and so they just keep the gods as they are, unless they are problematic, like they involve animal or human sacrifice. Then yeah, they will definitely change that. But if they do not uh, if they do not oppose they're not in contrast with the Buddhist faith, then they just leave them as they are. Like in Sri Lanka, they venerate some Hindu gods like Vishnu, which is called Kulvan, I think. Yeah, yeah, she's got another name in Sri Lanka, but yeah, like in Hinduism, where Vishnu is the main god, is the supreme god which rules the universe. In in Theravada Buddhism, he becomes a protector of the Dharma. So he becomes another follower of the Buddha. All the other gods, this is also this was the this also became apparent in the ancient Greco-Buddhist kingdoms also became followers of the Dharma. Like if you look up some Greco-Buddhist some Greco-Buddhist art, you will find that the Buddha is depicted together with uh, Hercules or Zeus. That's because yeah, but
Wow, that is crazy. Okay.
because in the syncretism between Buddhism and Hellenism, Zeus and Hercules and the other gods became uh, followers of the Buddha Dharma.
Dude, no way. That this is so crazy. I don't know how I've never thought about this before because it's obvious when you think about Alexander the Great, you know where he goes, you know that Buddhism is contemporaneous, like at the time with the Alexandrian conquest, but I've never thought about interactions between them, and I've never seen this stuff before. This is so weird.
And it's a shame that we do not have any text. We just have art and some reference, but we do not have any text concerning Greco-Buddhism, their syncretized practice. Although
Yeah.
we can imagine how they practice it. Buddhism did not alter the practices,
Right.
except
I mean,
for blood sacrifice, of course.
right. Yeah, and that's a similar thing that Christianity did in pagan lands is that like it ends these blood sacrifice traditions both in the
Yeah,
New World but also in like in Europe, like broadly, first in most of Europe and then eventually the last crusades happening in the Baltic states up in Lithuania. But yeah, this is very cool, man. I can't believe this. So then in Oh my gosh. Okay, I found what I want to share. And sorry if you're just listening, bear with me, but you might want to hop
yeah,
on
sure.
YouTube to see some of these. If you're just listening, as in like the audience just listening to this. But yeah, dude, I mean that is that Heracles here on the right? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
got
He's
the
got the club, so it's
yeah,
and I think that's wolf head. Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Or a
yeah,
lion head. I think that's
yeah,
that's his symbol. And his club. He's got his club.
yeah,
Wow. And then, dude, like to see it over here, this is such a cool like syncretism between these two faiths or these two cultures. It's both really. Um so this right here, this ring around I guess this is the Buddha's head. Is this
yeah.
it's serving the function of like a halo, right?
Yeah, yeah. It symbol of like his enlightenment.
Right. Okay. And you would see this a lot in medieval art. There would in
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
paintings. Yeah,
yeah. But
cool.
some scholars also speculate that the Christian hell might have been derived from the British hell. But this is just speculation.
Yeah, yeah,
And but I can definitely say that Gnostic Christianity. You know about Gnosticism. The
yeah.
Yeah,
Gnosticism. And
Gnosticism was definitely influenced by Mahayana Buddhism. Uh,
okay.
yeah, because they got both they got both have kind of like enlightened nature that needs to be awakened, and their goal is reaching gnosis by awakening their full potential. And yeah, so this is not
Liberation.
this is
So this
not
is the theory. Yeah, it's not
yeah,
confirmed.
it's theory, but I think it's very likely that the Mahayana Buddhism influenced the Gnostic Christianity.
Yeah, I tend to like, you know, evidence like what evidence passes for legitimate ideas, um like what evidence people use to actually prove what they're saying is very much culturally informed. And I think in the West there's sort of animosity towards spirituality in general, but also like there seems that people need to have some sort of hard evidence in the form of like they want some paper written by a PhD at the time. They want something notarized that tells them that there was really influence. But I think that like the influence keeps the influence. I mean, just being able to see that there's a similar influence between or a similar way of thinking between two ways of thought is usually enough evidence to show that there was probably interaction. Because when you have like when you know that there's interaction at the highest levels of the society, when you know that there is a historical force that controlled the land and moves people across it, then you know that people are talking to each other. You know that they're spreading ideas. And even if that's not a direct spread of ideas between two individual people, there's a spread of ideas between like secondary sources, like along the Silk Road. One
Yeah,
example of this would
that
like
later that.
yeah, the like the Gutenberg printing press. Like he never claimed to have invented the printing press. He never wrote down anywhere that I invented the printing press. He just started a printing press. And it seems to me that the most likely scenario is that that technology moved along the Silk Road, and then this guy in Germany modified it. He had to modify it quite a bit from the Chinese script, but you know, he must have used that influence. And I also think about this with Native American influence on the American Constitution, which a lot of people don't believe in this influence, but I believe that there's a lot of evidence based on there being evidence of just interaction between the founding fathers of the United States and some Iroquoian, Haudenosaunee, and Huron Native Americans. But yeah, Greco-Roman tradition. So Buddhism and Gnosticism, cool. Do you have anything else to say on that?
Well, I read some books on these connections, but yeah, as you said, no one has confirmed anything about it. So I better not jump to conclusions without having any hard evidence.
Well, I mean, you know, it, what is hard evidence depends on what you consider hard evidence. And um, I think that there's some blind spots in Western academia. And you know, it has its purposes. I don't hate it, but I think that like this is good evidence of this. I think that this is evidence of interaction between the ideas is almost enough for me. And that's not to say that I think that it's definitely true, but I tend to view almost everything with like a 95% true or not. So yeah, there's similarities between the ideas, and that's almost like that's kind of enough for me, I think. Like when I'm looking at this, um, yeah, maybe it
Oh
could
yeah,
be.
this is all Mahayana stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not very informed on what they're saying here, because Theravada is more straightforward.
Yeah, you'd have to be pretty, and I'm not in either, but you'd have to be pretty informed on Gnosticism as well as Buddhism to
Yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
evaluate these these claims here. So I don't really know, but it's a very interesting idea.
No,
It's cool.
wait, they're saying that both systems are monistic.
Both systems are
Yeah,
monastic,
yeah.
are
The
they?
last one, that is not true.
Really?
No. I mean, you could define Mahayana Buddhism as pantheistic, but monistic, nah.
Oh,
I mean, that's an entirely different thing.
well, I
They
never heard of this monism, not monasticism, but monism. It's
no, no,
it's oneness or
yeah,
singleness to a concept such as to existence. Various kinds of monism can be distinguished. Wow, why have I never heard of this?
yeah. This monism is very prevalent in the Platonic author. Platonism is a monistic school of thought.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay, you're saying that Mahayana Buddhism is not monistic.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, that's one of the
It's
guy's claims. So that's
they do not have like an eternal source from where everything stems from where everything derives from, like the Platonists. They just believe in cycles. They just believe that the universe is stuck in a cycle, and there is no beginning or end.
yeah. Okay. Well, that idea is something that's familiar to me, at least very familiar to me from a bunch of different places. Um. Okay. So is right now like right now you're basically at a year in studying Theravada Buddhism?
Yeah, yeah, I'm still stuck with Theravada Buddhism. And so far, I don't think I'm switching to another denomination. And well, the only qualms that I have about it's not really about the brand of Buddhism itself, but about the temple. Because unlike the Nichiren temple, practicing Theravada Buddhism requires a lot of commitment, and you need to learn to chant in Pali the formulae, some sutras. You need to understand the meaning of the words in Pali, because
What's this word you're saying? Pali?
Pali, yeah, it's the language of the Theravada canon.
Okay. Okay. Pali and Buddhism. Okay, so it's like the Latin of Buddhism.
Yeah, yeah, kind of.
Okay. Um, the Pali language, not to be confused with the Bali language. Okay. And this is an Indo-European language, of
Yeah, yeah, it
course.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you learn treats. So you're learning some of these. In okay, so you had mentioned Sri Lanka, I think both in text and a couple other times before. What is Sri Lanka's connection with this?
Well, I mean, according to the Theravada, Sri Lanka is something like the holy land of Buddhism. That's where Theravada developed and spread to Thailand, Burma, Laos, and the other Theravada countries. And the Sri Lankans have a very, very evident ethnic identity. They feel like they're ethnically Buddhist.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So they think that their island is the holy land of Buddhism, and when it gets invaded or threatened by Hindus or Muslims or even Christians, at some point in time, the island got almost Christianized, but uh, some Sri Lankan monks debate the Christian preachers, and after winning, they reconverted the country to Buddhism. So they have a very strong sense of identity. Uh, yeah, this also reflected in the temples, even in Italy, because most of the people attending the services in the temple are almost every time you will only find Sri Lankan people. And
Okay.
yeah, that's one of the downsides of one of the drawbacks of the temple, because finding Italian practitioners is very hard, and when they come, they're mostly always old people who come to watch, who are curious to find out about Buddhism. Maybe they learned about it from some movie or some books, and they just come as tourists. They do not stick around.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the monks they speak Italian and English, but of course, since the temple is for their own ethnic community, their services, their Dharma talks are in their language. So I just have to stare at them or waste my time on my phone while they're talking about Dharma, because I
Okay.
can't understand a word.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so,
But that,
but they're welcoming to you there anyway.
yeah. They treat me like I'm one of their people, like
Okay. Well, that's
I'm
nice.
part of their group. But they're not racist.
Okay. Um, so then, but if you don't speak Sri Lankan, is that the language, by the way? Is it Pali, that same
No,
language?
no.
Is that what they speak?
Pali
Or
is the liturgical language,
right.
like Latin in the chart.
Yeah. So they don't also speak it.
Right.
Right. So like
And
Latin in the Catholic Church.
yeah, and you can actually compose texts in Pali, like many chronicles were written in Pali. Many histories of Sri Lanka were written in that language, but I don't think anybody speaks it today. I mean, maybe somebody, some old monks in the forest tradition, but I don't think the city monks will speak Pali. Oh yeah, yeah. I have to mention that there is a difference between the city monks and the forest monks.
City monks and forest.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sweet. Saying a bunch of stuff I've never heard about before today. Okay. City monks and forest monks. All right. Let's hear about that.
It's- The forest monks are the original tradition. They're very strict about their conduct. They do not eat after noon. Every day they have to fast until the next dawn. They follow strictly the precepts, and yeah, these are I would say the original monks. When the city monks are more lax on the precepts, and they're also all the more lax in Italy, in European cities, because it's not a Buddhist country, so you cannot uh, just live with alms. The monks are compelled to use money to buy food. Yeah, that's something that the forest monk would absolutely refuse to do. But here, the city monks use money from the donations to buy food. Though the head monk also drives a car, so it's quite fun. You would not expect it from a
Yeah.
monk. Yeah,
th- That's interesting. Um,
and
Oh, what the heck? Okay, so this is interesting. So I clicked on this
Yeah,
to it was a random link. I didn't know this, but it says here a forest monastery in New England, which is the region of the United States that I'm from. So
yeah,
so I guess there is a forest monastery in the time.
yeah, you know
I'll bet
what?
it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, but it feels very hard for them to lead a Buddhist life because, of course, America and Europe are not Buddhist countries. So the people are not used to giving without receiving anything back. So
Yeah.
they
And
had trouble.
yeah,
They had troubles finding food or paying the taxes for the temples.
right.
Yeah, and some temples run by nuns. Here, there's some temples in America are ab- almost going bankrupt because Westerners do not donate to temples as much
Right.
as Jews.
Yeah. And I mean that makes, you can't blame it. It's not really our
Yeah, it's a
um
different culture, so
right.
it's troublesome.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. So then it's, but the forest monks, that's like, living in a temple that's closer to nature, essentially.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a bunch of other things, like there's a bunch of other reasons for it, but um, living closer to nature is part of it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Patreon, which is right now $2 a month. There's some other content on there that's not available anywhere else, and all the episodes are early and unedited on the Patreon. If you don't want to subscribe to the Patreon, but still want to help the show, I would really appreciate it if you would like the YouTube video or rate the podcast, whatever's relevant to you, do all that. That means a lot. Let me know what you'd like to see more of or how you feel about the new format and the brand new intro on the Discord or on Twitter.
Okay, but you're city monk, and okay, so the Theravada temple that you go to, this is mostly Sri Lankan people.
Yeah, there's mostly Sri Lankan people and occasionally some Italian, but as I say, they do not stick around. And yeah, there are not many people my age because, well, we're in Italy, it's a country for old men. You know, the birth rates are plummeting
Right.
year by
Yeah.
year, and young people are leaving. So yeah, you won't find any of them at temples,
That's
and
unfortunate.
that's one of the drawbacks of the temple.
When you say
But
young people are leaving Italy, where are they going?
well, I guess they're going everywhere else where they can find stable jobs, like England, Ireland, maybe even the US. Uh, yeah, all those countries, also Germany, France, anywhere besides Italy, because
Anywhere
they,
besides Italy.
yeah, in
And you're
Italy,
from Florence. You're from well, okay, you live in Pisa though, but that's the more affluent part of Italy.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically a huge tourist trap. Yes,
Oh,
and the
God.
the yeah the irony is that there should be more jobs for young people, but no, it's not like that, guys. They will. I don't know how they hire people here, but it takes a long time and a lot of applications to get hired,
Mm.
even for the simplest jobs. That's why people are growing tired of staying here and they're leaving, they're flying elsewhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. But you're studying in university right now. What are your intentions with Buddhism? Just to be a practitioner and to live your normal life in Italy, or do you want to move somewhere else permanently?
Well, it depends on what faith uh, has got left in store for me. Like, if I have nothing which is is preventing me from becoming a monk, then I go ahead and join a monastery. But I mean, if I get married or if I have something someone to take care of, then I think I'm gonna stay a layman. It depends on what's going to happen.
Well, it sounds like. And,
Yeah,
sorry, I don't mean to.
time to join the monastic life even now, but
Yeah.
yeah, for time being, I mean, I think it's a bit too early. I mean, I think
Okay.
about it in my 30s.
Think of it.
Yeah, I
So
also
is that normal for people if they might become monks to join in their 30s?
no, actually, the Sri Lankan monks get ordained in their kind.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. But you're still allowed to do it. Would it be
yeah,
the Sri Lankan tradition or some
yeah.
other Theravada?
They well, actually, I'd like to stay with the Sri Lankan tradition because there are some differences. They have some different formulae that they chant in the Thai tradition, and I'm already used to the Sri Lankan one. So, if possible, I'd like to stay with this one. But yeah, if uh, Thailand offers a better environment, then why not? Or Burma,
Yeah.
or well, I don't know about Laos, but I tried these three Theravada countries.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So when you talk about the Sri Lankan tradition, when they're doing song, would you call it sangha as well?
Sangha, it means the community or
Oh, the total community, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So when you're weekly with the Sri Lankans and they're speaking in a language you don't understand, where are you actually studying the Sri Lankan tradition?
Well, I'm studying it in the Pali Canon by reading it every day and watching videos and talking about it with monks.
Okay.
And yeah, they also give me tips. They also tell me about the differences between the Thai tradition and the Sri Lankan one. And yeah, they explain me how the rituals work, why we do these rituals, and everything else that concerns the meditation, ritualistic aspects. The monks are also teachers, so you can ask them anything.
Okay. And is that like they live in the monastery full time?
Yeah, yeah, they live in the monastery, but if I mean, at least the young monk in Lucca, because there are actually two temples that I attend, and they are connected. They're from the same branch, and this young monk traveled the world, and so like sometimes he will go back to Sri Lanka, or sometimes he will travel to other countries. Uh, I don't know if it is to spread Buddhism or just to learn about it, but he does travel a lot, and he knows more language than me, so
Wow.
it's quite cool. Yeah,
Is that normal for a monk? What do they normally spend their time doing if they're because obviously there's teaching and there's talking, but there's also studying specifically? Is there like required studying or is it on their own?
yes, they study on the Pali Canon. They learn the language, and they learn from other uh, older monks, of course. And as far as I know, the city monks spend most of their time like taking care of the requests of the laymen because they are dependent on them. Like the first monks, they have to listen to laymen because if you abandon the laymen, they will also abandon you. you would be basically left starving to death without money, without food. So he is kind of forced to go to visit the hospital when someone is sick, someone from the community is feeling sick. So she has to visit them and give them blessings and yeah, things like that. And yeah, he has to take care of the rituals requested by the people because actually Buddhism to the Sri Lankan people is something that is inherently connected to their daily lives. So, and this is another aspect that makes it similar to the ancient pagan tradition, because, as you know, the religion was not separated from the daily life.
Yes.
So, for example,
Interesting.
yeah, if a person is feeling sick and the layman want to pray for him at the temple, they will request huge offering to all the 28 Buddhas. And some weeks ago, I accidentally ran into one of these rituals where they were preparing it, and there were so many glasses with so many drinks and so many offerings for all the 28 Buddhas that I thought that it was a huge waste to throw them away. Because once you make an offering, the people who join the offering cannot consume it. So you had to throw it all away. And yeah. So it's quite fascinating that their religion is not separated from their daily life. They one thing basically. Uh, yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. So for you, what does Buddhism provide you in your daily life?
Well, first off, it provides me with the wisdom of the Buddha contained in the text. I mean, if you're if you're somebody who is constantly fighting, whether online or in real life, even just the some minutes of meditation, focusing on your breath can ease your mind way better than any medications. I mean, that's at least my opinion. You don't have to take intoxicants to calm yourself. And the effects of meditation are also proven by scientific research. So it's not a miracle. It's something that can be verified directly.
Right, right. So you're talking about physiological response to
Yeah.
controlling
Yeah.
numbers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so obviously meditation itself as a Buddhist practice helps, but what would you say the difference between how you practice Buddhism and how, like, a general Western Buddhist might practice it? Somebody who's just like taking as a self-help book, you said earlier,
Yeah.
which I think
First,
is good.
first off, I actually chant the sutras, the formulae, which the Westernized Buddhists not know, and they refuse to chant because they believe that it's something like a prayer where you ask the Buddha, the gods, for uh, something in exchange. Right? Uh, there's also that aspect, but there's also a meditative aspect, because both chanting and meditating in the breath meditation are ways to develop mindfulness, to be mindful of the present. As you know, like when you find quotes of the Buddha who says that you do not have to get attached to the present, or to you do not have to get attached to the future or to the past. but you have to be mindful of the present. And the meditation exercises, the chanting exercises, also the mindfulness exercises that you can practice every day, uh, uh, they are all focused on developing this sense of mindfulness of the present.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, well, the Westernized Buddhists often focus only on meditation, which is the most effective practice for developing mindfulness, the standard practice, but it's not the only one. There are 27 practices as far as I know. And you can choose whatever practice you want. You don't have to stick with one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But
yeah,
I mean, another one of the differences that you're not saying, but like I know that it is that like they don't. A lot of Western Buddhists wouldn't follow the five precepts like at all. They wouldn't really.
yeah, I mean, especially if they're like liberals and they're
Yeah.
uh, they're endorsing abortion or drugs. And no, that's not following the five precepts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Especially abortion is one that it's
yeah.
clearly,
It's,
obviously against Buddhist.
the opinion, the Buddhist opinion on abortion is actually much harsher than the Christian one, cause like if I remember correctly, like some medieval scholastics like Thomas Aquinas actually would sometimes approve of abortion of the fetus because they believe that the fetus is not developed human yet. So that's in some cases it can be possible according to this theologian, but according to Buddhists it is not possible in any case because even if you're yeah, aborting the fetus, then you're preventing a human from being born, and being born a human is a very rare event. So the next time that baby will be reborn, he will be reborn in the animal or in the hell realm. So
Right.
it's yeah, it's a very controversial question that the Western Buddhists do not consider at all.
Right. Yeah. 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 And so I've told you, I've studied Buddhism a little bit. I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist, but it's one of the religions, one of the three that I would say I take the most from, the other two being Catholicism and Taoism. But um, the the abortion part of it is something that, like, even with just a little bit of study of Buddhism, the idea of you know of not valuing that life, that in I don't understand how you could read any Buddhist text and not understand that it presents that life as having a soul and being deserving of compassion. But I remember I had an argument with a German friend of mine who is she's German, from Berlin, very liberal, of course, and like trying to, like, just tell her that, like, I'm not trying to make any sort of law changes. I'm just, from my background, I just view it as, killing a living thing, a soul. And yeah, it's rooted in my religious beliefs, but you know, it- the 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 point is that she thought it was more legitimate that I was rooting it in Buddhist beliefs than if I was rooting it in Christian beliefs. And I think that that's kind of BS. Um, but where would you say you lie politically?
Well, politically, I'm with the Dharma, so I'm very devoted to my religion. So I follow the teaching of the Buddha, and well, the, those teachings may be may sound a bit outdated today
Right.
in our modern society, because the Buddha didn't like the popular perception of Buddhism. He did, but the Buddha did not order to be promiscuous or to do whatever you want in your life. He laid down uh, precepts and rules to develop uh, the perfect mind, perfectional mind. And so being promiscuous, cheating on partners, uh, drinking alcohol, and killing living beings, or also just lying, will cause your mind to develop unwholesome feelings, which will inevitably will inevitably become an obstacle to your practice. And this is why I say that the morals are a very important component of the Buddhist practice. Without some uh, serene mind, without a peaceful mind, which does not think about the hurting others or hurting yourself, then you will be able to focus more easily. And you will also get less trouble from people, of course.
Right. Right. Okay.
And yeah, the Buddha also instructed his laymen to follow gender roles. So gender roles, and so yeah,
What was that word you're saying? Did you say generals?
yeah, gender roles,
General rules?
roles,
Generals.
roles,
Roles or rules?
yeah, roles.
Roles. Okay. Oh, gender roles.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. You literally, yeah. I don't know why the heck I didn't get that one. Yeah, gender roles. Okay. And are those explained by Buddhism, or are they just whatever contextually those gender roles, what their specific manifestation is wherever they are?
Well, in the text where the Buddha instructs his lay people, he tells them to of course respect their parents, to follow their traditions, to honor their gods, and also it instructs the woman to obey their husbands and to make children. And so basically what you will find in the ancient texts, any ancient religion. So it is the popular perception of Buddhism is quite wrongful. It's quite misleading.
Yeah.
If liberal Buddhists found out about the real teachings of the Buddha in the Pali Canon, then they would not be Buddhists anymore. But
Yeah.
some of them, I mean, some of them on Reddit or in these liberal Discord servers, they justify their views by denying the authority of the Pali Canon, because they claim that it was written by other monks, which were inspired by the Buddha. So not all the Pali Canon reflect the full teaching on the Buddha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they reject the like most basic texts of Theravada Buddhism, but they try.
Yeah,
Is that
it's like they do with the Bible. They pick what they want from the Bible
yeah.
and reject whatever
Yeah.
does not work with them. So
It's a very Western way of viewing religion. It's like
yeah,
you can carve it up and just pick the individual parts. Like yeah, that's wild. Okay. Um, yeah, that does remind me of the way that they would deal with Christianity, because it's like there's that meme of like hippie with long hair like me, but he's saying, like, oh, Christianity is just like being vaguely nice to people, man. Like
Yeah.
that's all it is. Yeah, I mean, it's very similar with the way that Buddhism is practiced. All right, so then, so your views are, so if you're pretty much anywhere in the world and you're a normal person by Western standards, you are right wing, like you're far right, essentially.
Yeah, for me,
Um,
yeah. I mean, I'd probably
but
be
yeah,
an extremist,
you'd probably be what?
an extremist according to
Yeah,
the
an extremist. Yeah,
ideology. Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like, you know, different manifestations of extremism, like where I live in the Northeast US, there's like there's the only real extremism we have, you know, it's like there's white nationalism and like there's like neo-Nazi. I mean, there's not a lot of this stuff, but that's like what
Yeah,
exists as extremism. And obviously we have like, you know, Antifas and like anti-fascist people, not a lot of them again. And then like, you know, neo-fascist type guys. And in Italy, I know your right wing is heavily associated with fascism because that's like that's where fascism is from.
well, there's
Um,
still controlled opposition. So, like in America with with the right wingers, it's all the same.
okay, okay. So you're saying Italian fascists are controlled opposition in
No, I
Italian
mean,
politics?
you say that the right wing government is tied to fascism.
Oh, no, no, no.
Uh,
I'm saying I'm not saying that. I'm saying that those are like the extreme extremists. I'm not saying like in the actual
oh
government.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know about in Italy. I don't know much about your politics. I know that
Mm.
isn't Mussolini's granddaughter doing politics, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. He's still in politics.
Okay, but where does like are you an Italian nationalist or anything? I assume not.
Uh, well, there are some aspects that I like about Italy more than any other country, but I guess not
Yeah,
because yeah, there are also so many things that went wrong that are still going wrong that I'd like to move somewhere else.
right,
And,
right.
so yeah, I'm a traditionalist, but I mean, I'd move to some other European country if I could. Also, I'm more motivated to move elsewhere because I'm a language student, so I should
Right.
travel around the world.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Was still, of course, I still feel the ties to the ancient tradition to the because I was actually born in the south, southern Italy.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay.
as you probably know, southern Italy used to be a colony of the Greeks, and there are still some temples, some ruins of ancient Roman and Greek temples, which are still very cool. Yeah, then so I can still kind of feel connected to my land, but right now it's in a very bad state.
Yeah.
Uh, yes.
And you don't see any, do you see any domestic forces that are acting within your worldview? Like what's the, even if they're an extremist, is there a group that you identify the most with in Italy? I know very little about your politics, honestly, very, very little.
Well, actually, there's not a fixed group. I do not. There are things that I, there are positions held by some politicians that I agree with from one side of the spectrum, and others from the other side of the spectrum that I also agree with. So I do not have a fixed position.
Okay.
Yeah. That, for example, yeah, I'm not against full block, full immigration block, as it will also mean preventing the Asians who imported Buddhists from joining Italy, and yeah, that that will be that that will not be coherent with my religion and my thoughts.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that makes sense. So you practically, you're doing Theravada Buddhism, and that means that you can't support immigration blocks because that would stop the Sri Lankans that you practice with from coming in. I think that, like, you can think, I don't have a lot of specific thoughts on this in the case of Italy, but it's like this is something that I think about a lot, is that changes in ideology, um or like almost the weakness of Christianity in the face, and the decline of Christianity in the face of the modern world in the 20th century into the 21st century. I don't blame you for thinking that way, but at the same time, I also understand it as kind of it's at a whole level, at a macro level, there is quite a bit of um chaos that's coming out of mass immigration.
Yeah, well, the Sri Lankans are not mass immigrating there. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's a
I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. I'm saying that the, at
and
like if you
the
look at the
thing is
country
that
level, the concept.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. The thing is that they're the only ones keeping Theravada Buddhism alive, because Italians are not drawn to Theravada. They would rather go to, as I say, they attend services in the Nichiren temple, which is very similar to Christianity, or in the secular movement like Soga Gakkai. Do you know anything about Soga Gakkai? No.
No, I don't.
Well, as far as I know, it's the most popular Buddhist movement, secular Buddhist movement in the world. And many celebrities like Tina Turner and also Italian soccer players.
Okay.
We also adopt this form of Buddhism, which is derived from Nichiren Buddhism, but it's a secularized form of Buddhism. So they do not believe literally in what the Nichiren Buddhists believe. They filter the Buddhist teaching through psychological lenses.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
And the funny thing is that even if you open up their website, you will read that, you will see that they will try to gain more members by boasting about the miraculous effects of their practice. Like they will say that it cures cancer, that it cures brain tumor, or anything else. So yeah,
Okay.
very
Seems
interesting.
unlikely.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, and okay, so that makes sense. So Nichiren Buddhism, that's the Buddhism we talked about earlier, the one you went to first. That
yeah,
has more Italian practitioners of it, and it seems like
yeah,
Western
really.
practitioners in general. Um, and it does seem to me that it's closer to Christianity, and a lot of times it seems like faiths, especially modern liberal Christianity, and when there's another faith that is closer in relation to what your worldview already is, it's a lot easier to move into it than making a bigger jump into something like an ecclesiastical tradition in Theravada Buddhism. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You need to be committed to practice Theravada Buddhism. While in Nichiren, you just have to chant the mantra, and most members don't even do that. Actually, they don't find the time to chant for 5 minutes a month.
yeah. Well, if you're not going to find the time for 5 minutes, you might as well not be a
Yeah.
religion. Yeah, cool. Is there anything else you wanted to say? I think we're getting to a natural stopping point. Anything else important?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to emphasize uh, the the like the way with the in which the Buddhist faith is verified. I know
Okay.
the other faiths like Christianity, Islam, even Hinduism, they are all verified by miraculous events, miraculous events. Uh, uh, like I don't know, vision, dream, miracle. Uh, so yeah,
Water into wine.
yeah. But also like the Fatima, the Fatima vision that many people claim to have experienced it. While Buddhism is a completely different kind of religion because it is not verified by faith, but it is verified by practice, direct practice.
Okay.
And yeah, so I mean, of course, I will not suggest anybody to punch anybody on the street, but it goes without saying that if you harm another person, then you will face the consequences of your actions, and that's the causal law and effect, karma, and everything that you experience. Uh, Everything, the past, the present, and the future are like they depend on your individual actions. So there is not a god that will command you to follow this and that rule. You take your life in your hands,
Mm.
and if you screw up,
Wow, yeah.
yeah,
That seems very appealing.
yeah,
So it's basically like the energy you put out, the energy you get in, karma, anything like that. Is that like
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
fair?
yeah. And also, there's a kind of
Oh, so it's verified by the results of your life in the sense that
yeah, and also
what you
by
did on.
by meditation, by chanting, by all the practices.
It
The
okay.
faith in the Buddha comes afterwards, not before the practice. And
Okay.
it's not and the absolute faith like in omnipotent God, in a supreme God. It's more like believing that, like the Buddha, who before enlightenment was just a regular human, you also are like him, a regular human. So you can reach nirvana like him if you practice and have perfect your moral conduct and so on.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, this is something that is unique to Buddhism. And I guess this is also one of the main reasons why in Italy we have so many temples, because Italy is, oddly enough, uh, one of the European countries with uh, most of the with hundreds of temples. We have, I think, 41 denominations of Buddhism.
Wow.
And
Okay.
in Florence alone, we have almost every denomination. We have a Dan Buddhist temple. We have a Chinese Pure Land temple. We have Nichiren Gakkai, and then we have the Tibetan centers. And yeah, finally we have Theravada. What we do not have any Hindu temples.
Interesting. Are there
Yeah,
not a lot of South Asian people in India? Or I'm sorry, in well, there's Sri Lankans, obviously. So are there not a lot of Indian Hindus in Italy?
Yeah, there are, but I don't think they're as religious as they are in India. I mean, at
Okay.
least they're not
Yeah.
building huge statues of gods like in Canada, you know, like the huge Hanuman statue that they built. I never met a religious Hindu
Yeah.
in my life. Not
Yeah,
yet.
the in that's something most things that happen in Canada or in the US, you can say that it's also happening in US or Canada, the other one. But Canada is really weird with their Hindus. I don't know what's going on up there, but we have a few down here, but we have like different Indians in America. They're doing something different. We're not here to talk about Indians. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, well, that's cool. I had no idea there was so much Buddhism in Italy. And it makes sense because I live in a pretty rural area, like a woodsy area, but we have a Buddhist temple, and I've known of a lot of Buddhist temples in my life, but I've also grown up around a lot of Hindus being from the Northeast US. We have quite a few Hindu minorities. And I've never heard of a actual place where they practice a temple or whatever it is. That's
Yeah, we
interesting.
also have a Buddhist monastery in Rome. It's
Yeah.
also a Theravada monastery from the Thai tradition.
And how
And
long has that been there? Do you know?
sorry,
Do you know how long it's been there? I'll just look it up.
uh, well, actually, I don't know, but I think
Oh,
it's been
1990.
yeah for 20 years.
Yeah. Meet the existing interest among Italian Buddhists as well as the Thai, Sri Lankan, and Burmese immigrant communities.
Yeah, I was going to visit it with my with the young monk from Lucca, but he had to attend university classes because he's taking a master's degree in languages like me,
Oh,
and
wow.
so
Okay.
we delayed the journey, and we're going to visit it this summer. Well, at least I hope we're going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great. And is he Sri Lankan?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And so does that mean he's born in, like, does he live in Italy permanently, or is it like a Catholic priest thing where they send you to different locations over time?
I guess they can choose where to stay. Right now he's back in Sri Lanka, and so he's coming back in April.
Nope.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'm only going to the Florence Temple, which is a bit far away from here, but whatever.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
of course it's also bigger because it's main
Okay.
temple.
Cool. That's in Florence. Awesome. Do you wear, as a layperson, do you wear specific clothes when you go? Or is it just like church clothes type thing? You dress nice.
Only on Uposatha days. Uposatha is like
Basata.
celebration of the lunar cycles.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, in Italy, we only celebrate the full moon cycle, while in
Okay.
there, they do it every week, as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we get dressed in white clothes and wear white veil on our shoulders,
A white
and
veil, like a Dharma
yeah,
veil?
yeah, like a piece of cloth, a veil.
Oh, a veil.
Yeah, veil.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said wheel. Okay. So yeah, so you wear a veil over your face?
Yeah. No, no, on our shoulders.
Okay.
So
Okay. Got
yeah,
it. Got it. Yeah. Like monk robes, similar to like what people would think of as monk
kind of,
robes.
yeah. And we take the 8 precepts, which are like the 5 precepts, but they also include not eating at the wrong times, like afternoon or before noon. Not sleeping in comfortable beds, and not wearing any cosmetics.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
And is that you say the full moon, so lunar cycle. So it's the full moon, not like solstices and equinoxes. Do you celebrate those as well? Is that a different thing?
I don't know if it's the same thing, but yeah, here in Italy, we just celebrate that moon phase.
Okay.
And then we have other festivities like the Katina festival, which celebrates an event in the monastic life of the Buddha. We celebrate the Nirvana of the Buddha in, I think it was in May, the Vesak day, and some other festivities related to Buddha's life. And yeah, yeah, yes.
The
Every
lunar
month,
cycle. I wonder what that's rooted in. Lunar
every
cycle.
month,
So every month on the full moon.
yeah, it's usually on the last week of the month.
And that would change over time. Is there a Buddhist calendar? Is there a Theravada calendar?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It would change. A lunisolar calendar, primarily used in Tibet, Cambodia. Yeah, interesting. And okay, so if they're doing the lunar cycle every year, gosh, I hope people are interested in this because I'm really getting into the details of the religious practice. But if it's every week instead of every month, it's going to be the full moon and then the half moon, waxing and
Yeah, all
waning.
the lunar phases.
Right.
All of them.
Okay. Interesting, man. That's cool.
But yeah, according to the Buddhist calendar, we're living 500 years ahead. You know, we're living in 2025,
500.
65. Yeah.
Yeah. 2000. Wow, sounds very futuristic. Okay. Interesting. So, and this is rooted, what's the beginning of this calendar? Is it the life of the Buddha?
Yeah, it's
Buddha
the
attains.
begins
Yeah.
from the time when Buddha reached Nirvana.
Okay. Yeah. Hell yeah. Good for him. Okay. Cool. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to share? I really liked that at the end of what you said with the thing. Buddhism is verified by direct practice. That's cool. So is there any other takeaways that like someone in the West, what you want them to know about Theravada Buddhism and Buddhist practice? Most of my listeners are American and Canadian and English with, other Westerners.
Well, I guess there's something else, but I don't know if you're familiar with Julius Evola.
Julius Evola?
Evola. Yeah,
Ebola.
yeah, yeah. The Italian.
Julius Evola, Italian
Yeah,
philosopher.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Italian okay. Eccentric thinker in fascist Italy. I
Yeah.
know this guy, but I don't know much about him.
Well, he wrote many books on the ancient world and tried to reconstruct the vision of the ancient Indo-European peoples. So he contributed quite a lot to the reconstruction of the ancient religion and the reconstruction of these societies. And he also wrote a book on Buddhism because, of course, he had an interest in Indo-European religion, so
Yeah.
he has to write a book on Buddhist enlightenment.
He considered suicide until he had a revelation while reading a Buddhist text.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
He wrote on Western esotericism and Eastern mysticism, developing his doctrine of magical idealism. Wow.
Oh, well,
Interesting guy.
Wikipedia's
I'm a
himself, it attacks him because of his
yeah. I'm sorry. I pull up Wikipedia just to get it, but when I'm reading, oh, he's a far right guy, I'm understanding that like that he's gonna have like that they're gonna write about him in a certain way, and I have to read through it
Yeah,
with a particular lens. But yeah, I'm oh, so he's influenced by Taoism as well.
yeah, everything.
So,
He had many influences,
hmm,
and he wrote a book which I would not suggest to beginners, but to people who already know something about Buddhism.
the
Uh,
Doctrine of Awakening, which he
yeah,
regarded as
it's
a repayment of
that
his
book.
debt to Buddhism.
Yeah, because it
Yeah.
is in that book where he basically analyzes the various religious traditions of the world, and he compares them to the Buddhist tradition. And
Wow.
he claims what I said before, that Buddhism is verified through practice and to moral conduct rather than faith in a God. And he he also, but he on another note, he also was also a proponent of the what you would call Protestant Buddhism or yearly Buddhism.
Okay.
If you read posts about Buddhist, ancient Buddhist reconstructions, about academics who deal with Buddhism, they will sometimes mention these yearly Buddhism, which is more than a real religion. It's reconstruction. It's um, construct built by 20th century academics. And Evola was also a supporter of this yearly Buddhism, but mm, this form of reconstructed Buddhism actually strays away from the Theravada beliefs, because
Oh yeah.
the proponents of yearly Buddhism claim that the original Buddhism did not have a belief in any deities, did not even believe in rebirth. That's why it's sometimes called the Protestant Buddhism.
It makes sense.
Uh,
I mean, I would assume that this guy was trying to create some sort of syncretic version of the religion to be used as a greater Indo-European belief system, right? Was it something like that?
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. But in doing so, he also kind of contradicts the actual Buddhist teachings of the Theravada.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
they would always do that, right? It's like whenever it's in such a different environment that it's like it almost has to create something new. Like when I look at Iran and like the Persian Empire adopting Islam, but
yeah,
creating Shia Islam, with influences of Zoroastrianism, um, or like the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom with I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy who said he was the brother of Jesus Christ, which is obviously sacrilege to Christians,
yeah,
but he was, a Christian king uh, uh, in China, influenced by all these other things. Yeah, I've never heard. I have heard of this guy, but I've only seen his name. I didn't even know anything about him.
yeah. So he proposes this reconstructed Buddhism, which was also proposed by the many English scholars who were went to India to study the religious thought. They yeah they this this happened because some people can wrap their heads around rebirth. They just think that rebirth is something that you have to believe in, that cannot be proven with empirical evidence.
Mm.
And I guess that's partially true, but the cosmic the low cause and effect, the karma, quite explains why we experience rebirth, and it's all connected to this doctrine of karma, because karma is not something that we experience only when we're alive. Something that leaves its traces even after death. And when you reach enlightenment, like the Buddha, like the Arhats, you stop this, basically stop creating more karma, and that's why you no longer experience rebirth, because you stop generating karma, which kept you alive.
Mm.
Yeah, some people just flat out deny rebirth because they think it was added later, or was it's a popular doctrine which had nothing to do with the Buddha's teaching. But the truth is that if you remove rebirth, then also karma makes no sense, and the whole doctrine falls apart. So you can you can just practice this Protestant Buddhism, or early, as they say, because it's self-contradictory. And yeah, going back to Evola, I think I suggest the book to people more or less have some knowledge about Buddhism. I definitely not use that as an introduction, because he's got many points wrong about Buddhism, and he was not a practitioner of
Right.
Buddhism.
Yeah, he seems more like a guy that was trying to, he was probably inspired by it, but he was definitely trying to find something for his other, for his,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
but on the other hand, he provides a very deep analysis of the Buddhist religion. You can use that when you're dealing with other religions to justify your beliefs, your practice. As I said, he compares it to Christianity, to the type of ascension that you experience in Christian religion and the other religion, which are based on faith. Yeah, so it's very interesting, and I'd suggest it to somebody who already started practicing Buddhism and knows what he will got right and what he got wrong. So it's a very good book if you're looking for a religious comparative, looking for a study in comparative religions.
What's the book called? I think I had it up earlier.
The Doctrine of Awakening.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The Doctrine of Awakening. Um, Doctrine of Awakening. Very interesting. All right. Um, and that's by Evola. Yeah, I think I have people that have brought this guy up to me before. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming. This was great. This was enlightening. I mean that in a enlightening in a in a academic sense, learning about this type of thing way. This is a different context in the context of when we're talking about Buddhism, but um yeah. Is there anything else? Anything else you really want to get out? Because I think I love the stuff you shared with me. I'm gonna look more into that Greco-Bactrian art. That's incredible stuff. Um and the Buddhism being verified by practice itself is that's a really, really compelling idea. I can see why that appeals to you. So Ahsoka, Angelo, is there anything you want to promote? Is that you have? Like, do you want to promote your Twitter?
Well, yeah, if you're looking for I sometimes explain certain passages, certain Pali canon chapters. Actually, I post every day Buddhist sutra from the Pali canon. It's
Yeah.
a random sutra that I find on websites, but I also sometimes will make comparative analysis of between the ancient Indo-European faiths and Buddhism. I'm very fascinated by the aspects that these religions share. So I try to find out as much as possible and try to share my knowledge with everybody else. Yeah, so if you looking to learn more about Buddhism, or if you want to get introduced to Buddhism, if you're looking for videos, whatever kind of media will help you understand the Dharma, then you can check out the pin post on my Twitter account, which is
And I'll link
Ashoka.
to that below.
Yeah. Thank you.
But it's Ashoka what? And I don't know how to pronounce it either. So
Eh,
go ahead and say it.
Yeah, I think it's both. You can pronounce it both
Oh, okay.
Soka or Ashoka.
Okay.
But,
Okay. Cool.
but the 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 standard pronunciation should be Ahsoka, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Because well, there are different pronunciations in Pali and in Sanskrit. Like for example, Nirvana comes from Sanskrit. No, the word Nirvana
Right.
comes while in Pali it is Nibbana. Yeah, so
Okay.
you got double. I think it was the phenomenon was called a reduplication in linguistics.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you get double consonants.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And Pali is older than Sanskrit, it says here.
Yeah, well, it depends on what you think. The Theravada tradition claims that Pali is an eternal language. It's a language of the Buddha.
Okay.
And the Hindus believe the same thing about the Sanskrit language.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's one of those things. My bad. I read the first link I saw, and I shouldn't have in this case because this is a religious fight between them that's been going
Yes.
on for like 2,000 years. But all right, man. Thanks so much for coming. It was great.
Yeah.
Let me know what you'd like to see more of or how you feel about the new format and the brand new intro on the Discord or on Twitter.